The Fourth Way by P.D. Ouspensky, Chapter 4. And just remember now, all the questions are posed by Ouspensky, and the answers are given by Gurdjieff. Question: if there are defects in essence, can they be altered? Answer: yes, but as I said, personality must change first. Essence does not change so easily. Changing features in essence is very difficult work. It needs knowledge and sufficient energy, and we are weak and have no knowledge. It is done only when it is necessary, and only with the help of school methods. Suppose one has a lazy essence, and one wants to awake. One can change it after a long period of self-study, but one must have help, school help. So it is lucky for us that work on essence comes second, that we have to start with work on personality. But by working on personality, we already work to a certain extent on essence. Sleep, awakening, consciousness, all this does not refer to personality. It refers to essence. So actually you work on essence from the very beginning, and personality is changing. And personality by changing will produce a certain pressure on essence and change it too. Is one always born with essence? Answer: yes, but often essence remains undeveloped on the level of a small child. Question: is essence the reliable part in us? Answer: even in personality, there are reliable and unreliable things. For instance, imagination is unreliable. Imagining you can swim when you cannot, and knowledge of multiplication table are both in personality. One is reliable, the other is unreliable. Question: does the level of being depend on growth of essence? Answer: certainly, and this is the relationship between them. Only you cannot measure being in that way, for the division into essence and personality is at present merely theoretical, but it is useful to remember that these two principles are in you, because, as I said, if you do not know this division, it will prevent you from understanding certain other things that you will hear. One thing you must realize about essence and personality is that essence is one, whereas personality consists of several groups of I's. So we can say that we have not a personality, but personalities, in the plural, for there are 5 or 6, sometimes 10 personalities in one person. Magnetic center, for instance, is also a personality, for we are not born with it. It is created in life. It is a group of I's which can, to a certain small extent, control the other group of I's. Some of these personalities are all right, but some will always be in your way and have to be controlled or eliminated. Question: what work can one do on personality? Answer: it can be controlled by the mind. That is all that can be expected. In your mind, you formulate your aim, and personality must work in accordance with this aim. In your mind, you formulate your aim, and personality must work in accordance with this aim. Question: what is desire to awaken due to? Is it in essence? Answer: this is connected with magnetic center. You will remember that the first lecture I spoke about magnetic center and the different influences under which man lives. This brings us to the question of why some people are interested in these ideas while others are not. What creates this desire to know? The energy to seek. Why people who live in similar conditions are so different. For one person is satisfied with ready-made theories and cliches, while another wants to find truth for himself. What is it that explains this difference in people in relation to new ideas? For some people meet with the possibility of acquiring new knowledge and are not interested, while in others It may change the whole trend of their lives. People come to these and similar ideas in different ways. Some understand something, others take them on an ordinary level. The cause of this difference is that man lives in a mechanical life under two kinds of influences. What does it mean? It is connected with the idea explained in the beginning that man is a machine controlled by external influences, by things around him. He may be receptive to one kind of influence and not receptive to another kind. Most of these influences are created in life itself by people like himself. But among them, mixed with him, there are other influences which are not created in life, but come from a different source, from people of a higher mind. They come in the form of religions, science, philosophical systems, esoteric doctrines, art, all sorts of teachings, and so on. They cannot be distinguished from influences of the first kind outwardly. So it depends on the man whether he discriminates between them or not. Man can live only under influences. A, that is, influences of the first kind disregard influences B, not to be interested in them. Let me read that again. A, that is, influences of the first kind, and disregard influences B, not be interested in them. But if he is interested in these influences of the second kind and has absorbed them in sufficient quantity, a certain process takes place in him. Results of these influences, B, the memory of them, collect separately in a special compartment and form what is called a magnetic center. Magnetic center is a combination of certain interests and emotional associations which make him turn in a definite direction. It is a circle cycle of ideas and a circle cycle of emotions. This is the origin of interest in this kind of ideas. Question: if we were mere machines, are we to conclude that you are trying to lead us, machines, in a certain desirable direction, or are we capable of discriminating between truth and falsity? If so, with what faculty? Answer: with magnetic center. Men are machines. There is no question about that. Only they are not quite the same machines as an engine or something of that kind. You have heard already that a man can live in 4 states of consciousness, but that in an ordinary life he lives only in 2. These 2 other states of consciousness can be developed in man, but they cannot develop by themselves. They have to be developed through knowledge and effort, and the faculty that helps man to understand and discriminate is the magnetic center. Now we are speaking about man before he meets a school. He lives in life under ordinary conditions. Conditions may be very different, but in any conditions, he lives under 2 kinds of influences. I was speaking about 2 kinds of influences I was speaking about. What are the influences? A, all interests of life, struggle for existence, desires, excitements, possessions, riches, amusements, and so on. They are created without intention and are mechanical both in their origin and their action. But at the same time, man also lives under influences originally created in schools, but thrown into a general turnover of life. These influences, B, are, as it were, a life apart. They are arranged for a certain purpose, to serve as lights on the way. The rest depends on man himself. All his interests may concentrate only on influences of the first kind, or a part of him may remain interested in influences created in life, while another part may be interested in this other kind of influence. If a man notices and studies them, they may accumulate in him. The memory of these interests may begin to collect in him from a very early age and form a certain group of eyes out of the many eyes in him. After some time, this group of eyes, or magnetic center, begins to control and determine his general direction in life and the trend of his interests, or of a part of his interests. Magnetic center means looking for definite things and being on the level of certain things. But if a man does not notice these influences, they will produce no effect. This is why people are so different. One person may be very intellectual, may have studied philosophy, art, and so on, and at the same time he has no chance if he has no magnetic center. If he comes in contact with a school, he will not recognize it. And another man may be insufficiently educated, may not have to read so much, may not know so many words, yet if he meets a school, he may become more interested at once. Question: what makes us different in this sense? Answer: it is a combination of what we are born with and outside circumstances that make us what we are. It is all mechanical, all under the law of accident. It is useless to deny that people are born different, but that we cannot change. In any case, in the beginning, we have to take it for granted that people have different capacities, but not for awakening. This is where people make a mistake. Awakening does not depend on what is born. It depends on the magnetic center, and magnetic center depends on what one is interested in. One person is interested in one thing and another in another thing, but on what that depends, we do not know, and it will not help us to investigate this question because it will only be theories. In our state of consciousness, we can only know some things, and we must concentrate on the things we can know without wasting time on the things we cannot know. Question: does not our magnetic center depend very largely on mechanical causes? Answer: not quite. As I said, it is a certain combination of interests, but only interests, and not only interests, but also of ideas. A man has acquired a certain knowledge, a certain understanding. It all enters into the magnetic center. It is mechanical like in everything else, but influences B are different in their nature. Excuse me. Although in the beginning they come mechanically. This is not important. The important point is whether there is interest in B influences or not. This is how out of mechanicalness comes struggle with mechanicalness. Magnetic center helps a man to see, understand, and distinguish certain things. A man cannot appreciate the difference between ideas. He cannot say which is better, which is worse, which suits him, which does not suit him, without the help of a magnetic center. Accumulation of knowledge does not help to create a magnetic center. Magnetic center is good taste, with the help of which a man can have a new evaluation of the ideas that come his way. The question is, in this stream of life, to distinguish the two kinds of influences, to feel the difference between them. If a man does not feel it, if he takes influences B in the same way as influences A, then they produce the same effect, and magnetic center is not formed. Then there are many dangers, because some of these ideas which make up the second kind of influences are so distorted that they can form a wrong magnetic center. Magnetic center must be very uniform and very sane to lead somewhere, otherwise only an embarrassment and nothing else. Question: How does one know whether one is under influences B? Answer. Influences B are always there. They come originally from the inner circle of life, from that part of life which has become free from the law of mechanicalness. But they may pass through many stages before they reach man, and may be so distorted and so disguised that it is difficult to recognize them, just as it is difficult to recognize ideas of esoteric origin which come to us in the form of legends and myths, or even superstitions and things like that. Sometimes they have an esoteric origin, and then they are influences B. Question. Suppose one only imagines that one is working under influences B. Answer. One does not know about it, and one does not work in quotes, under influences B. One can be interested in influences B, just for one's own personal advantage, profession, fame, or something like that. Then one loses all the profit one can get from them. But if a man values them for themselves, not selfishly, not only for his own gain, if he is interested in their meaning, then he may get something from them. Definitions are very difficult and mostly wrong, for our ordinary language has so many different associations that sometimes a more precise definition spoils the possibility of understanding. For instance, you can say, though I do not guarantee that it will always be right, the chief characteristic of influence A is that it is always selfish, whereas influence B is always unselfish. But people understand these words so differently that it does not convey much. You can also say that influences A need identification, and influences B can exist without identification, and that if there is identification with influences B, it spoils them. In fact, the more identification there is with influences B, the more they have become influences. Answer. But all this is not sufficient to explain the differences between them. Question. Is total immersion in influences B and complete rejection of influences A a correct attitude to life? Can we altogether dispense with influences A? Why should we? Influences A may be quite legitimate interests in life. If you do not disappear in them, they are quite harmless. One has to accept everything that comes, only not identify. One must accept everything that comes, only not identify. Influences A are not dangerous in themselves, only identification is dangerous. So there is no question of dispensing. There is only a question of having some interest in influences B, of not being entirely under the power of influences A. If people have an interest in these influences B, they have a magnetic center. If not, they have no magnetic center. After some time, with the help of a magnetic center, a man may find a school, or if he comes near one, he may recognize it. But if he has no magnetic center, he will not notice it, or he will not be interested. If he meets a school or a man who transmits another kind of influence C, magnetic center helps him to recognize this new influence and absorb it. If he has not first absorbed enough influences B and so has no magnetic center, or if his magnetic center is wrong or too weak, a man will not recognize influence C. Or he may meet a wrong school and have a wrong instruction, and instead of becoming better, becomes worse. Instead of acquiring, lose. Influence C differs from influence B in that it is conscious instead of being accidental, both in its origin and its action, whereas influences B are conscious in their origin, but accidental or mechanical in their actions. Influence C is school influence. Question: must one be adult to recognize C influence? Answer: there is no general rule about age, but one must have enough experience, enough temptations from influences A, and enough time to accumulate influences B. I'm really losing the thread of this. I'm sorry. I'm probably reading this very badly because I must say I do not understand what he's talking about here. I will try this last paragraph again, and then I'm going to pause and think about what he said, because this is not really going so well. And this is why I always lose myself in this book. This isn't the first time I've read this book. It's very hard to understand, I know. At least for me it's hard. I wouldn't say for you it's hard, but definitely for me. Okay, question. Must one be adult to recognize C influence? Answer: there is no general rule about age, but one must have enough experience, enough temptations from influences A, and enough time to accumulate influences B. Otherwise, influence C will serve as influence B. In other words, it will do the work of a more simple instrument and will not have its full value. When people have tried and have realized that ordinary means not to satisfy them, do not give them what they want. They value influences C, but if they come before that, they take influences C on the same level as the other influences, and influences C lose their power. It's very important to understand that. And that concludes his answer there. And frankly, I'm not going to continue. If you want me to continue, let me know in the comments below. But I am really getting lost in this book. So I do apologize. If you're understanding it, though, maybe you can explain it to me. Leave me a comment. Okay? Thanks. Till soon.